ప్రైజ్ గాడ్. సో స్క్రీన్ కనిపిస్తుంది కదనా?
కనబడుతుంది బ్రో.
ఓకే. సో కొంచెం వెనకకు పోయి లెట్స్ సీ వాట్ హ్యాపెన్ లాస్ట్ వీక్. So chapter 10 is what we have gone through last week. And chapter 10, I think we have seen some interesting subjects on polytheism, right? So chapter 10 actually spoke more or less about the descendants of Noah and their children. So we have seen the lineage of Japheth, and as we have discussed in the earlier chapter as well. So when these three sons decided to spread the earth, and that was the blessing of God when they have come out of the ark, saying that be blessed and be fruitful and spread across the whole earth. So Japheth, we have seen Japheth, his children has spread towards the northern part, that is like Europe and all these countries. Shem was in the Middle East, I mean the Arabian Peninsula, and Ham, who is the youngest one, has come towards the African land. So these are the sons of Japheth, and we can see a lot of European countries have come from him. So Germany, Cyprus, Turkey, Roman. We can see Greece. We can see Spain. We can see Russia and Italy as well. So I mean, in the last 10 days also, we can see Bible talking about Gog and Magog coming against Israel. So Russia is also again considered as Magog. So that's where the name Meshach also comes from. However, coming to Ham's descendants, we can see Cush, whose son was Nimrod, and a lot of other sons that we can see, which are from whom the African countries have come. Right, especially we saw about Nimrod last week, and we have read about Semiramis as well, and we have seen the pagan culture has actually started from here, because he was the one who was considered as mighty in the face of God. He encouraged or motivated people to come together, build a large tower so that they can go to the heavens, fight against the God, and also the tower can help them if at all there is a great flood. They can all be on the tower and be saved from that flood. That was the thought process that these people had. However, in chapter 11, we will see how God has confused them and why did he confuse them. And we also have understood his wife Semiramis, about their son, and how the pagan culture has started from there, how people started worshipping idols from then since now, and we have realized that this is the point where paganism or idol worship has come into place. uh, right, so this is what we have seen in the last chapter, and these are a couple of idols that we have seen of Semiramis, of their son again Nebu, or Thomas, Tammuz, or Molech, that we have seen last week. And this is where we stopped, and we have also seen Shem and his descendants and the land that they occupied. So if you see, all the Arabian Peninsula or Arabian desert is the land where Shem and his children were living. So in chapter 11, what are we going to see, right? So chapter 11 actually starts again in a continuation of chapter 10 about Nimrod and the kingdom of Babylon. So what does it say? It says, now the whole world had one language and a common speech. Now when it says about language, yes, last week we have seen, before the Tower of Babel, before God dividing people through language, all of them were speaking the same language, right? Noah has come, Noah's children are there, and now they have their children. So obviously it makes a logical sense saying that everybody was speaking one common language. Right, but here when the word says now the whole world had one language, it also talks about the idea or the thought process that people had. So they spoke a common speech. And what was the common speech? To come together and build the Tower of Babel in this land. What is this land called as? Shinar. What is Shinar? As people moved eastward, right? From where are they moving? So this is Turkey. So this is where the Mount of Ararat is, and that is where the ark stopped. People have started here, living here, and then they started moving eastwards. And this is current day Iraq, Kuwait, right? And this is Iran. So they started moving towards east, and this land is a plain land, right? So that is why it called. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. And this Shinar is currently the country of Iraq. Now, what is Iraq famous for? Iraq is famous for something called as ziggurat. What is ziggurat? The building that you can see in the picture. This is called as ziggurat, right? We will talk about it more. So they said to each other, come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. So it has always been a culture to build something with stone. So they bring together stones, they put one stone on the other, and they build small caves or small houses for themselves. But this is the first time that people have invented making bricks with clay, right? So let's make bricks and bake them. So they are baking them. They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Now the brick that you can see in the picture is from Iraq, which is found in the excavations, and the black marks that you see are remnants of tar that was used. Now if you read through the ziggurats of Iraq, you can understand that the Babylon Tower was always there. Today, you don't find anything there except for a small hump of bricks. But it is said and it is written and it is recorded that people took out the bricks from Babylon Tower for many, many, many years, and they built their own houses in Iraq. Right? So today you don't find anything, but this tower stood in Iraq for a very, very, very long time. They said to each other, come, let's, okay. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens so that we may make a name. So when it says make a name, uh, so the verse actually tells about the pride that they were having, right? So they were trying to boast themselves by building a tower that can reach to the heavens for ourselves. We can make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Now, if you see what is happening here, can anybody read Genesis chapter 9, verses 1?
Chapter 9, verses 1. Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, be fruitful and increase in numbers and fill the earth.
Right? So, what was the command or blessing of God? Fill the earth. And
Yeah.
what are people doing here? They're doing exactly the same. They want to live together, right? What is the word saying? Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. It's just a couple of years after God has completely destroyed the humankind. It was only one family that was saved, a man, his wife, his three children, and their wives. Within no time, people have again gone back to the same old way of life where they do not want to follow the command of God or the blessing of God. Right? And as last week we were also saying that one of the wives of Noah's daughter-in-laws, wife of one of the son, is actually from the lineage of Cain, and hence that sin is still
Hmm.
continuing on the earth, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. The Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language, having the same mind, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. And it is true to this day that if man has his heart on something, if he decides to do something, if he has his mind and his thought focused on one thing, he can achieve anything. And that's what Jesus also has mentioned in one of the verses, which says that if a man believes that he can do, he can do it, right? uh, but here the Lord is saying, if as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, building a tower unto the heaven, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down, confuse their language, so they will not understand each other. Right? Again, we can refer to Genesis chapter 1, where God was talking to himself, saying that let there be light, let there be this. So God is again talking. So we have also understood the Spirit of God, and took a couple of references. So here God is saying that, come, let us go down and confuse the language, so they will not understand each other. So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. Now, we have actually touch based on this topic in chapter 10 also, right? Where uh, during the time of Peleg, the world was divided. Peleg is somebody that we will see, in the lineage in the next slide. But during the time of Peleg, the world was divided, and that was the time where the Tower of Babel was being built. So the Lord scattered them there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. Now, after this, what happened is something that we have seen in the previous chapter, where Nimrod died, his wife, became a deity, and she started the practice of uh, what we call as idol worship. Now, that is why it was called Babel, because Babel is the place where everybody was confused, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth. From there, the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. So I think this is the point where from here on in the Bible, this is the end of creation, right? So from here on, the next chapters will take us towards one family lineage, that is Shem and his family lineage, and we will be focusing towards one family and starting off uh, Israel, right? So this is the chapter where Abraham will be introduced to us, and from there on, we will be reading more of Abraham and what happened after that. In the continuation, this is the account of Shem's family line. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. Right? So it has been 2 years after the end of flood, and Shem was 100 years old when he became the father of Arphaxad. And after he became the father of Arphaxad, Shem lived 500 years and had other sons and daughters. So Shem lived a age of 650 to 700 years. And after he became and when Arphaxad had lived 35 years, so from here we can see the age of people getting shorter and shorter, and the age of marriage getting shorter and shorter. So far, we have seen people really having children when they were 100 years old and they lived so many years. But here, from here on, we'll see people getting married and having children at the age of 30, 35. So when Arphaxad had lived 35 years, he became the father of Shelah. After he became the father of Shelah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. Right? So I think Arphaxad and his lineage is highlighted in red in the picture. So when Shelah had lived 30 years, he became the father of Eber. Father of Eber, again, last chapter we have read saying that Eber is where the name Hebrews have come from, right? And it is said in the Jewish uh, scriptures that when God, dispersed everybody, confused the whole earth with different languages, Eber was the only one who did not involve himself in the construction of the Babel Tower. And as I said in the previous chapter, that is chapter 10, so I feel that we have to read chapter 10, chapter 11 together, because it is the combination of the whole story. In chapter 10, it is written, during the time of Peleg, the whole earth was divided. And here, what we are saying is Eber was the only one who did not involve himself in the building of tower, and that is why God did not change the language of Eber, but rest all their language has changed. And that is why it is said Hebrew is the purest form of language. It is the ancient language. This is the language of God.
Okay.
Right? Because this is the language that started in the Garden of Eden, and everybody spoke the same language. And Eber language was not changed by God. And this is where Hebrew has come from, right? And that is why it is believed that Hebrew is the purest form of language, and that is the language of angels, that is the language of God. And after he became the father of Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber lived 34 years, he became the father of Peleg. And after he became the father of Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and had other sons and daughters. Now, Peleg had lived 30 years, he became the father of Reu. And after he became the father of Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and had other sons and daughters. So if you see from top to bottom, you will see their ages getting shorter and shorter. So between Eber and Peleg, Eber lived 430 years, Peleg lived only 209 years. It is almost all half. And from here on, the age is coming down. So Reu lived 32 years, he became the father of Serug. And after he became the father of Serug, Reu lived 207 years and had other sons and daughters. So while we are focusing only on Eber and Peleg and his lineage, in chapter 10, we also have seen about the other sons of uh, Eber, which is Joktan and his lineage. So if you see the background image which we covered in chapter 10, so all these green areas and this whole land of the Saudi Arabia until Yemen, Oman, and all this area is where Shem and his children have settled down. And we can see on the top near Haran is where Eber is mentioned, and then Peleg, and then we will see how they have walked towards the east and settled in the land of Shinar. Shinar, as we said, it is in the Iraq, right? That's what we read in the earlier scriptures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will see here where they are settled now. Any questions so far?
Shinar means the Babylon, right, brother?
షినార్ అంటే ఇరాక్ మొత్తం అక్క ఇక్కడ నుంచి స్టార్ట్ అయ్యి సో ఇట్స్ ఏ ప్లేన్ ఏరియా విచ్ దే కాల్ షినార్ లెట్ మీ టేక్ యూ
Babylon
హియర్
అక్కడనే కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ చేశారు కదా.
ఇది బాబిలాన్ టవర్ ఆఫ్ బాబిలాన్ అండ్ దిస్ ఇస్ వన్ ఆఫ్ ది కింగ్డమ్ కాల్డ్ as కిష్ దిస్ ఇస్ వన్ ఆఫ్ ది కింగ్డమ్ కాల్డ్ as ఉర్ in the next slide we will see Abraham was living in Ur,
Hmm.
right? So what happened, people started walking towards the plains and they settled in Shinar,
Hmm.
right? So that's why I wanted to show you this image. You are seeing this picture, right?
అన్న అంటే బ్యాక్వర్డ్ వాళ్ళు బ్యాక్ నడుచుకుంటూ వచ్చారన్న ఫ్రంట్ కి వెళ్ళకుండా
లేదు అను సో ఇక్కడ చూపిస్తాను నేను ఓకే అంతకు ముందు వారం మనం ఏం చూసినామంటే ఎప్పుడైతే నోవా ఆర్క్ ఆగిందో ఇట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ అరారత్ మౌంటైన్ అండ్ దీస్ ఆర్ ది అరారత్ మౌంటైన్ సో దిస్ ఇస్ టర్కీ రైట్ దిస్ ఇస్ టర్కీ so we said that the ark has stopped on Mount Ararat and then they came out, and here what we are reading is they as they walk towards east, sorry, E area, As they walked towards east, they found a plain and they settled there, and they call this place as Shinar.
ఓకే అండి.
ఓకేనా? ఈ ప్లేస్ ఏంటిది ఇప్పుడు? ఇప్పుడు ఇది ఇరాక్, ఇది కువైత్, ఇది ఇరాన్, అండ్ దిస్ ఇస్ సిరియా, అండ్ దిస్ ఇస్ టర్కీ, రైట్ కదా? And I think this is what the image that we were referring there also. So we can see Eber lived here, Peleg, his son, lived here, and then the other sons started moving towards south, right? They started moving towards the hilly area. Idanta Yemen la entante idanta hilly area annattu. So they started spreading towards these lands. Right? This is Haran, which is in Syria.
ఓకే. సౌదీ అదంతా అరేబియన్ డిజర్ట్ అదంతా ఎంటీ ప్లేస్ అన్న.
ఇదంతా ఇప్పుడు కూడా డెజర్టే కదా.
అవును.
But then people started. So Saudi Arabia kuda enti ante, if you go and if you read the history of Saudi Arabia was never a country.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia was filled with lot of tribes. వాళ్ళని బద్దు అంటారు, ఇయాలకి కూడా బెద్దున్స్ అంటారు. బెద్దున్స్ ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళు చిన్న చిన్న ట్రైబ్స్ గా తయారై ఒక ఫ్యామిలీ, సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నాకు ఒక 10 మంది పిల్లలు, వాళ్ళకు ఒక 10 మంది పిల్లలు, అట్లా ఒక 50-100 మంది కలిసి ఒక చిన్న గుడారం వేసుకొని ఒక ప్లేస్ లో ఉంటాం. అండ్ ప్రైమరీ సోర్స్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్కమ్ ఏంటి? వాట్ ఈస్ మై ప్రొఫెషన్? ఈజ్ ఆల్వేస్ షెపర్డ్.
Yes.
Right? So most of the people who lived in these plains, their profession has always been shepherds. And we know that even Abraham had a lot of sheep, and their primary profession has always been shepherds. But whereas Japheth moved towards these countries, right? Time lo Japheth's children are the ones who built the ark. Now okvela inka logical ga link chesukovalante, when Noah was building the ark, I am sure Japheth was the oldest one. He
Yes.
must have helped his father. So he understands how to build ships. So Japheth and his children started going upwards.
Okay.
Right? So all these European countries are occupied by Japheth's children. Ham has come here. So these are the lands that are occupied by Ham and his children. And this is the land that Shem and his children occupied. In the last slide, we will also try to understand why Shem was living here.
ఎస్. అంటే అన్న ఇప్పుడు మొత్తం అంటే షేమ్ చిల్డ్రన్స్ ఇప్పుడున్న అరేబియన్ కంట్రీస్ వాళ్ళదా మొత్తం?
అందుకే వీళ్ళని సెమైట్స్ అంటారు.
ఓకే.
సెమైట్స్ నుంచి సెమైట్స్ వచ్చింది.
కానీ ఇక్కడ ఎక్కడ బైబిల్లో ఒక వర్డ్ ఉంటది కదన్నా, వీళ్ళు అడవి గాడిద వంటి మనుష్యులు, అది ఎవరి గురించి అన్నారన్నా?
నాకు రెఫరెన్స్ తెలియదు అను. ఎక్కడ రెఫరెన్స్ చెప్తే మోస్ట్ ప్రాబబ్లీ రెఫరెన్స్ చెప్తారా ఏ వాక్యంలో ఉందో?
జెన్సిస్ అన్న 16 and 11 అన్న. 12.
Genesis 15 verse 12.
16 verses 12.
16 verses 12 చదువుమా.
అతడు అడవి గాడిద వంటి మనుషుడు.
ఎవరి గురించి మాట్లాడుతుండో? ఇష్మాయిల్ గురించి మాట్లాడుతున్నా.
అది ఎవరిదన్నది ఫ్యామిలీ?
అబ్రహామే కదా.
అబ్రహామేనా?
ఇష్మాయిల్ అబ్రహాం కొడుకు కదా.
అవునన్నా.
ఆగర్ సన్ కదా. సో అక్కడికి వస్తాం, ఇంకా మనం వస్తాము అక్కడ. అంటే అక్కడ ఏం జరిగింది అనేది అర్థం చేసుకుంటూ కూడా మనకి చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. వస్తాం, ఆ టాపిక్ కూడా వస్తాం. హగర్ వాజ్ యాక్చువల్లీ ఈజిప్షియన్ ప్రిన్సెస్.
ఓకే అన్న.
మనం సారాయి దాసిగానే చూస్తాం తప్ప ఆమె ఒక ఈజిప్షియన్ ప్రిన్సెస్ అనే విషయం మనం ఎప్పుడు జ్ఞాపకం చేసుకోం. She was an Egyptian princess who was gifted by her father to Sarai Abraham as a slave.
Okay.
So Ishmael was like a wild donkey ananta.
So he is also Shem family.
Shem family.
Shem family. Okay. Now I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So షెమైట్స్, అందుకే వీళ్ళని సెమైట్స్ అంటారు. అరేబియన్స్ ని, సౌదీ అరేబియా లేకపోతే ఈ ఏరియాలో ల్యాండ్ లో ఉన్న వాళ్ళందరినీ షెమైట్స్ అంటారు. రైట్. సో అందుకే ఇప్పుడు ఇజ్రాయెల్ కి అగేన్స్ట్ గా వార్ జరిగినప్పుడు యాంటీసెమిటిజం అంటారు. ఎందుకంటే దే ఆర్ సెమైట్స్.
సో ఓకే, క్లియర్. ఎస్.
This is the plain of Shinar. When I say plain of Shinar, I am talking about Iraq, and then this is Iran, right? So this is where people actually got settled in those times, right? This is Akkad, this is Ashur. So these lands, Akkad, Ashur, are the cities that were built by Nimrod,
ఓకే.
right? Which we read in chapter 10. Fine. Any other questions so far? Okay. Now, interesting topic here, right? So when Serug had lived 30 years, he became the father of Nahor. After he became the father of Nahor, Serug lived 200 years, had other sons and daughters. Nahor lived for 29 years, he became father of Terah. After he became the father of Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and had other sons and daughters. After Terah had lived 70 years, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Right? And where they were living? They were living in Ur. Right? Where they were living? They were still living in Shinar, the plains of Shinar. Right? Now, what is happening in plains of Shinar? This is the Assyrian kingdom, this is the Babylon, right? And this is Haran. So what is happening in this land during this period of time? What is happening? Babylon tower was built, the idol worship has started, all the people had same language, same mind, same thought of building and rebelling against God, right? And idol worship. So what is the idol worship again? As we read in the last chapter, we saw that people started worshipping moon, people started worshipping sun, because they believed sun is the symbol of Nimrod, moon is the symbol of Semiramis. So that is why in all the image of Semiramis you can see a moon image behind her head, right? And we also spoke about what is about the crown that Semiramis wears, and that is why most of the Roman Catholic churches we will see Mother Mary having crown, right? And so last chapter we have seen where that crown, the image of crown, has come from. Now, why? Because she is considered as the goddess of moon. We can see that she has a moon symbol behind her head in all the images, and this is what is the background of it. So what is happening in this land? There is a lot of idol worship. People are again living against God, right? And everywhere people were living a sinful life. They were doing idol worship. And last week we have seen that people were giving వాళ్ళ పిల్లల్ని బలి అర్పిస్తుండే, right? Saying that their son Tammuz is actually the god of fire, right? And they started పిల్లల బలి అర్పించుడు. ఇవన్నీ జరుగుతున్నాయి ఈ ప్లేన్స్ లో, right? So what is happening here in verse 27? It says, this is the account of Terah's family. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran became the father of Lot. While his father Terah was still alive, Haran died. Abram and Nahor both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, right? Uh, she, or Milcah, was the daughter of Haran. Haran, who died before his father, right? So Terah had three children: Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran died before his father. Haran had his son. Son's name is
Lord.
Lot, and also he had two daughters. One of the daughters' name is Milcah, who married Nahor. That is second son of Terah, right? She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Ishka. Now we saw Ishka. There is nothing else written in Ishka. So when we go through again, when we read or take some scriptures from Jewish scriptures, Ishka is also considered as Sarah. Ishka Sharai. So as per Jewish scriptures, Haran had two daughters and one son. One daughter's name was Ishka or Sarai, and the other daughter's name was Milka. Milka is married by Nahor, who is the second son, and Ishka or Sarai is married by Abraham. So this is how they started their families. Now Sarai was childless because she was not able to conceive. I think the first question that will come when we say Ishkai is Sarai and Abraham married Sarai. So first question that should come into our mind is when Abraham entered Egypt, he introduced his and he told the king that Sarai is my sister, right? And Abraham says, she is my sister from another mother.
Okay.
Yes, it's
So
true.
there are two important things that we should understand from these scriptures. One, the culture in that land. What were people doing now? Because they had to spread, there was no structure of family in those days, right? So చిన్నాన్న పెదనాన్నలు ఈ within the family marriages చేసుకోవడము, it was a common culture then, right? And we can see the same culture still existing in this part of the land,
Yes.
right? Because that is how it started, and that was the culture at that point of time. So however, there is another culture. What is that another culture? ఇంకా ముందుకెళ్ళి వేరే వర్సెస్ మనం రిఫర్ చేస్తాం ఫ్యూచర్ లో, వేర్ అబ్రామ్ ఇంట్రడ్యూసెస్ లోత్ యాజ్ హిస్ బ్రదర్, right? So Lot is termed as Abraham's brother. Now, what do we understand from this? So basically, when the scriptures were being translated from uh, Hebrew to English, so we understand that during the translation, basically we have to take them as relatives rather than literal meaning of brother, sister, and such kind of relations. So ideally, what the scripture is talking about is they are related to each other, and that's what is important for us. Now Sarai was childless because she was not able to conceive. Terah took his son Abram, right? They were living here in Ur. So Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, son of Haran, his his daughter-in-law Sarah, the wife of his son Abram. So Lot did not have a wife here. And together they set out from this land of Ur to Canaan. Where did they start going?
Mm.
Canaan. But what happened after that? But when they came to the land of Haran, which is in Syria, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years and he died in Haran. But Terah has actually started his journey to Canaan, right? Now, why did they start this journey and what happened in the background story is something that will actually give us a better understanding. So, if you see this image, right, on the top, we can see Noah. The years might be here and there, but the number of years that they have lived is something that we can see here. Noah has lived 950 years, right? Shem has lived around 600 years. Now we all know that Noah has blessed Shem, and Noah has said, "Blessed be the Lord of Shem." Right? So we can understand from those verses that Shem was close to Noah. So Shem lived along with Noah, and hence he stayed back in these lands. Arphaxad lived 430 years, 38 years. Shelah lived for 33 years. Eber lived for 64 years. And the beginning of this is where they had children. Eber lived 1723 years. Peleg lived 239 years. And we can see that the lifetime of Shem is matching with the lifetime of Abraham. Do we all agree with this?
Yeah.
So if you read through the verses and if you note down the life time and the years that they have lived, you can mix and match and see that Abraham was actually born to Terah at the age of 130. So when Terah was 130, he had Abraham. Now Abraham and Shem lived in the same timeline. right? For 35 years. So again, referring to Jewish scriptures, so it is said that Abraham actually served Shem for around 35 years, where Shem taught Abraham about the God. So during the time when this whole land was into paganism, when people were worshipping idols, when people were into multiple gods, by then fertility had a god, rain has a god, crops has a god, river has a god, water has a god. What they call the insects are gods, the snakes are god. Bull symbol is what we have seen as a symbol of Nimrod's son, right? Bull has become a major god for them. So when this is happening, Abraham was taught by Shem on the actual god, the real god. And Abraham was the only one who was believing monotheism, and he was the only one who was preaching monotheism to people surrounding him. So, in Jewish scriptures, it is mentioned that Nimrod's son, who was believed to be God by then, who was ruling that land, actually had a conversation with Abraham. And, Abraham was preaching monotheism, and all this story has happened. But then what happened was, people realized. So, he actually started having uh, he tried to harm Abraham, and that is when Terah has decided to move from that land and go towards Canaan. This is the first part that I wanted to share, and the second thing that I wanted to share was the mistake that Terah has done. Terah was asked to go to Canaan. Before Abraham, God spoke to Terah, and Terah was actually asked to go to Canaan. But look at the life. He came to Haran and he settled there, right? And Terah lost the opportunity to enter Canaan. And in the next chapter, we will see where Abraham, Sarah, and Lot will continue their journey from Haran to Canaan. And we will also see from there the life or the chapters or the story that we will see will run between Haran and Canaan, right? Right? So God will have Isaac. Isaac's wife comes from Haran. Then Jacob will go to Haran, and we will see the whole story of Hebrew and about God. So further stories, further chapters will cover the story between Haran and Canaan in the upcoming chapters. So this is where actually we stop reading about the creation, and this is where the story begins about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the patriarchs of Israel, and from whom our Lord Jesus Christ has come onto this earth. Now, any questions?
So not only those three people, like with them, there are many people who were traveling, but their names are not mentioned, right?
No, Akka. So the Jewish scripture specifically mentions only about Terah